All right, we are live. Today I have very special guest, and I was just amazed about the huge years of experience that actually David Sayce have, because he is in the digital marketing space for over 20 years, and like we haven't been here, like some of us haven't been like even born, or like we were in the schools and high schools, like while he was driving like digital marketing space and working with clients. So thank you so much for joining this call. And before the stage is yours, I just want to present our big topic, core topic today, which is how to educate SEO clients about the SEO efforts, and not just SEO knowledge about like all digital marketing like strategies that we need to implement, but they still, because of their lack of knowledge, they are saying no to things. So David, welcome to the stage.
Thank you for having me on here. It's great to join you, and now I feel very old. But yeah, I was saying to somebody this morning that we were looking back. One of my first personal websites was 2002. The first e-commerce website I built was 1996, and kind of doing what became SEO before we had a name for SEO, which is
Mm,
fascinating.
okay. And since you have all these kinds of like years, like what did you see that like it's different? Like what's the same?
I think difference is it's a much more crowded market. I think for a business looking for whether it's an agency or an individual, the market out there has got become very busy with people of all sorts of skill sets. I think the technology as well has gone through some massive changes. Talking with somebody again on a call this morning about responsiveness of websites and the sort of devices people look at a website on. It used to be two or three different screen sizes. Of course, now it's everything. So there's a lot, especially with the technical. With the what stayed the same, I think the one thing that has always been core is about quality content and knowing your audience. It's interesting how, especially every few years, some of this seems to cycle round. Most recently, seeing much more talk about accessibility of websites as well as the quality, and I think that's absolutely key, and that's one of the important things about taking what is digital, the SEO website, and talking about it in real business terms. And I think we're still not quite there yet with a lot of both agency side and businesses themselves. There's kind of a communications gap somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I believe like as SEO expert and like PPC experts, we are always prioritizing like our tactics, like our knowledge, like let's do this. But like it's so easy to just like forget the business side and say like, no, I really need to do this. But like we are not thinking like more strategic on like business making decision, like perspective. Like, is it really kind of like priority for us, or like can we think about anything else? But during these years, like, and communicating with so many different clients, what did you see that actually helping us to educate them so we can get that, yes, we can get that implementation like even faster, so we are not being overwhelmed and frustrated by not implementing these things that we need to have?
I think something I learned quite early on was that communication. So when I first started off, there was almost I'd go into a business and there was almost an issue of, well, where does he sit? Is he marketing? Is he sales? Is he IT? And very quickly, I found that it was actually about communications across all of those departments, trying to help them understand in real business terms what I was there to do, and for me to understand from a business point of view what they wanted to achieve, and really take that and try and move that forward. So communication has been absolutely critical. Sometimes you're dealing with people, and I think a lot of agencies as well forget this. Sometimes you're dealing with people that have pretty much no knowledge of digital marketing. You start talking about all the different metrics across Google GA. What's Google GA? What's GSC? These are just totally alien. And as soon as you especially start throwing out those three-letter acronyms to people, it leads to some confusion. That in itself, if they're not then comfortable to sort of ask, well, what does this mean? And you're not explaining it, it also has some trust issues as well as people unsure what exactly they're getting. Worst case scenario, it's the vanity metrics versus what's actually really good for the business.
Yeah, that's the thing, because some of the clients will not ask, but also they will not see the value in that. So we really need to make sure that they are understanding. So it's kind of like more our task to make sure they understand like what we are talking. And I really love your point, like how we can actually translate SEO terms to the business terms, because like they are not responsible for knowing SEO terms.
No, not at all.
But we are so keen to explain everything what we know in the SEO terms, like what's
We get
happening.
very excited. Yeah.
Yes, excited, but also I would say like in most of cases we are feeling that we are not good enough.
Yeah.
So we want to actually overshare whatever we know about SEO. So the client is getting the feedback like, oh, she really knows what she's doing. But actually it's totally like making confusion like between us, because like she's like, I have no idea like what you are talking about. And like, I don't think it's important. So that is something that kind of like we don't need to put like our own insecurities on that, and make sure that clients is getting what they want, because in the end of the day like we are getting like money, projects, like everything from them. So it's like it's more focused on them and not on our like personal insecurities and issues and complexes that we need to.
It also it helps set expectations from the very beginning. You can talk about, well, you're going to be ranking in the top 3 for these keywords within 6 months. Okay, that's all well and good. What does that actually mean to the business? And then you want to explain, well, these topics, these keywords, these will often link through to these pages. Once somebody comes onto that page, we then have call to action. We're going to measure the call to action and then hopefully move through the business. So we know somebody's come into the business. We know they have an interest. We know that we've potentially made a sale. We've made a sale, and then you start to be able to take that real world money, those figures, and turn back to the business and say, well, actually, from that SEO project, we can say that we have produced X amount of money for the business. When you start saying things like that, they start to understand better and they really like it.
And now we are talking seriously. They are taking you
Yes.
more seriously because like you're talking their language.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is absolutely key when dealing with any business.
And how did you handle maybe a few years ago when you were starting SEO, when you were starting to kind of like um, talk these like business language? Like, how did you shift that focus from SEO to the business? Because like it's easier, say like shift a focus,
Yeah.
but like when we need to take that in practical way, that is something that we are losing our thing.
I think I've had a fortunate start. I started in business. I started in what was traditional marketing. So that helped me understand, what is it that businesses are looking for. We still talk about not just the end result, the turnover, the business, the money coming in, but also things like brand awareness. So I think appreciating and understanding what a business is there to do, and what the internal teams get measured on as well, is a big point of the conversation. So, I'd straight away I'd be speaking with sales teams and understanding what products they were focusing on, where they got the best returns, best profit margins on various products, and start to see where we could tailor the SEO to push to get the biggest result in as short a time as possible.
Yeah, that's so true, because like in early of my like SEO career, I was I was just kind of like being a little bit like familiar with the client, and my focus was on actually website, SEO technical things, like what is missing, content strategy. But like after some time, I really realized that the focus and huge amount of my hours should be on like being familiar
Yeah.
with the business niche, their clients. That is focus, because like once I know like these customers, it's easier for me to think strategic, to create some good SEO strategies, because like I know them. But like it was a huge kind of like gap between like, oh, I really want to make like this SEO this website like technical, like optimize, or like
Yeah.
content or anything. But then like I was missing, I would say like now I know I was missing like the most important thing.
And I think one of the techniques for that is when meeting with clients, and I think this is quite an old technique. It's the five whys. You keep asking why. So you go into a business and their first response is, well, we want an SEO to come in and we want to be in the number one position for this list of keywords. Okay, well, why? And you keep asking why until you get down to, well, this is where we believe the money is, this is where we believe the target is. And that's when you can then go back and explain, well, actually, the amount of people that we see on average searching for this each month is very low. It works better in another country. Have you tried these variations? In some cases as well, I find, especially with professional services, financial services, there's a lot of internal terminology being used. And that's what they think they need to be ranking for. When the actual audience, that end user of the product, the service, calls it something completely different. And
Yeah.
I think it's it's all those areas that it's really important to understand, and it's important to understand, get to know who is running the business, who are the sales teams, the relationship managers, what are the current marketing team doing as well,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
and work with those people. And especially when you go in as a consultant or on a short-term project, I like to try and educate people to give them something that, years down the way, they can still put into practice and will help their business.
And before we move to it, you mentioned like the actually sales and like marketing people from these companies, and like basically the most insightful things that usually I was getting like from the client side is actually from salespeople, especially from salespeople if they are on these calls. So we have these kinds of like sales interviews, because when you talk with the marketing people of that company, like you're getting like totally like different feeling about the customers.
Yeah.
But when you are talking with salespeople, these people are like more they are giving you a more kind of like search terms that you need to expand on, because like marketing or like any other stakeholders like business owners, like they will say like we sell this product and like people are looking for this product, but like that's so far from the actually search intent that we need to find in our strategy.
It's funny. I found you speak to salespeople, you speak to anyone who picks up the phone, and you ask them, well, what are the things people ask?
Mm-hmm.
And that really helps build out a website. It's everything from years ago. What's the fax number? What's the best way to get to your business? Do you have this documentation that I need? That's when you can start building that information out onto your website. And then with the sales team, when they're asking about specific product specifications or the depth of services being offered, all of those can be fed back to the digital and marketing teams to be used to further the knowledge and make the website that first port of call. The
Mm-hmm.
other the other thing we forget is it used to be when somebody would phone or walk into a business, that was sometimes the first interaction that they'd had with that business. These days, it's very different. The potential client, customer, they will have been all over the website. They have looked at the LinkedIn pages of people. They've done so much investigation up until that point that they've kind of got in their minds what they're after. They're now looking for the reassurance. And that's
Mm.
often the stage they're at when they do finally come through to the salesperson at the end.
Yeah, because also in these talks you can find pain points like challenges that they are facing, like real problems, like real people, and then like you can also address that on the website because like and then like people are getting a feeling that they you know them.
Yeah.
And when these people are getting this feeling of like knowing familiar, then like they are starting to trust you and like you're getting the authority and like everything builds.
And that's yeah, the whole trust and authority. I know, Google talks about this a lot with EAT, but interestingly, on a number of the websites that I've worked on, just the development of websites and the use of stock imagery, I've found that, and this goes slightly off tangent, but using real world photography of people that actually work in the place, it has such a level of trust, an increase to that level of trust of the person then getting in touch with the business, that I believe it's worth the expense of having somebody in and having proper photography done. Plus the
Hmm.
fact that stock photography is always so cheesy.
Yeah, and like I think especially in the last like few years, like we really want to see like real people, like real problems. Like we are so over these kinds of pretending like that is like everything is super nice, everything is perfect, everything like we want to see like challenges, we want to see vulnerability, we want to see like real people because like we see that like that's we are and like all people are kind of like struggling with something. We just want to say like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Are you struggling with something different? But cause like that's ultimate true. It's not just like, yeah, everything is perfect, our business is perfect, the product is perfect. So, and you mentioned that you are trying to educate like even when you are on the short term project. So did you see that some kind of like methodology is working better and like because like it's very hard to actually focus like your the knowledge like that you want to like share with
Yeah.
the clients and that is like most beneficial for them. So how did you find that focus?
So that's interesting. That really depends on the level that the and the resource of the team that are there in house. So it can be from areas such as auditing and health checks, giving them the basic understanding to be able to check their website and look for some of the more basic areas that may appear on their website. Um, Helping them with areas such as marketing found frameworks such as SWOT analysis, things like that, just to help them think along the lines of, okay, what is it that we want from this page? What is it that we want from this business? What are our end goals? With a lot of firms, I say, every page needs to have a purpose. For
Hmm.
pages such as the homepage, it's to carry you deeper into the website. For a lot of financial and professional services, each page will take you into a deeper level of knowledge depending on what you're after. And I think helping the internal teams understand this, it stops them just going, okay, well, we've got this new product or service. Let's just put a web page up there and that will be fine. That will be it. It helps them really think about the reasoning behind that. And then, of course, that leads into the measurement side. What is success? I work with teams that run a lot of campaigns, and for them, it's I always feel it's a bit of a weak one, but brand awareness, it can be so difficult to measure. But even if it is measuring on a CTA such as a download or a contact, it's making sure that the team are aware of, okay, well, this is the campaign, the project that we're doing. We've got the SEO elements in place, and we are going to measure it on the number of downloads. You have a real world metric. You can measure that from places like organic search or PPC, and just helping them better understand what it is they're doing. And even the simple stuff like that is something that can really help any business moving forward.
And like whenever actually around all this topic about educating our clients about like SEO terms, the knowledge is actually the core is communication. But what I'm seeing like with my clients, with my coaching clients, it's so hard to communicate
Yeah.
because we are so afraid maybe they will not think about us that we are like trustworthy. We maybe if I'm asking a dumb questions they will think that I'm dumb, or like hesitation to ask questions like in the client side, in the team member side, upper level stakeholders. So how did you deal? Definitely there is a possibility that you had also the same issue, but like how did you overcome that so we can share with our.
So, especially with areas around audits and migrations, I have a whole cheat sheet that goes with me or before me, and the idea of that is to really understand what the business is doing and to give them some idea of what it is that I'll be doing. And then sitting down with people and saying, well, these are the discovery sessions. And I think with every new client, it always starts with that discovery element. And at that point, no questions are silly. No questions shouldn't be asked. It really is an open forum to understand from both sides what is wanted, what is required, and what the final outcome should look like.
And what if we didn't ask specific questions in that discovery, but like we still need to figure it out, but like it's
Yeah.
so hard to ask them because of our own insecurities.
That's the tricky one where sometimes you've just got to go in and say, well, look, I just need clarification around this, or can we go into this area a little bit deeper? I think as SEOs we should be inquisitive. That is part of what we do. It's the how, the what, the why. So we shouldn't be afraid of continuing on that questioning throughout the life cycle of a project. The discovery really should give you a really good head start, but you should feel hopefully comfortable in yourself that you can continue asking those questions, and make it clear to the clients at the very beginning that as questions come up, you'll be asking for clarity.
Yeah, and also like the questions will not stop. Like even after like discovery call, or like every week, we can come up with some questions because like that is how we are going deep into something. So we are not staying on the surface. Like, hey, this is something that I know. No, there is always like more deep understanding of our target audience, products, anything that our client is selling. Do you think that there is something else that we didn't mention today that you would like to share about like what's important in the educating like our clients?
I think it's being open, being honest. I think probably the worst thing you can do, either at the beginning phase or especially when it comes to showing off reporting. I know quite often businesses, they want to see examples of previous work. And I think almost one of the worst things you can do is talk about how visibility had seen a 76% gain, and ranking went up by three places and so forth. Again, trying to tie that back into what the outcome was for the business. I think simple and clear communication is key. And I think that is often the part that gets lost. And I think especially with any SEO, you really need to almost write down a script of how you're going to talk and then really look through that and go, okay, well, do people really know what an API is and why I'm using it? Do people understand the pros and cons of measuring on DA, domain authority? And be very clear on how you explain all of that.
And as long as we are connecting these with their like business terms, we should be fine.
And I think just reassure them that, if you do, and it does happen, start talking SEO at some stage, they should feel free and confident to ask you for the details behind what it is that you're doing. I think for a lot of firms, they're wary that they hear all this jargon, and they're wary that people are hiding information behind all this stuff. They're not 100% clear on what it is they're going to get. And that's often their biggest worry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, David, I really love this. So thank you so much for the today's call. I really think that we brought a huge amount of value about how to educate our clients. So thank you so much, and maybe I will see you in the one of the next episodes.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on here.
Of course.